back, everyone, to the 40 in Tennessee podcast. I'm Josh, here with Randy and Houston. We're going to talk about ghosts. Ghosts of the Appalachia. Is that a good way of putting it? We're going to talk about some ghost stories.
Yeah.
Ghost legends of our area. And also, we had talked about this some time ago, was that when we started doing research, was like, sometimes you were looking at haunted paranormal encounters have led to more like, maybe it's the wild man, actually, that they saw, not a ghost.
Yeah. Haunted woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I've been watching a lot of Finding Bigfoot because it's on HBO. I've been like binge watching episodes, and it really puts it into perspective what that show was. They go to like some cool places, and like they actually like talk about like cool encounters and stuff. But like just the way the show's shot is just green filters, the camera facing them, running around the woods.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not seeing any of them, so I just kind of knew better, I guess.
Like, I know their town halls were actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like that was like the cool part of the show, is like they get like the whole town to come in and like share their experiences if they had any in the area. So like that was cool. Like I always liked what they did there, because they always went to some place that had activity or had some, history of it. And that's like really what I wanted to like watch the show for. But like all the other stuff, there was some though that were like kind of funny. They do debunk some of it.
You just all feel staged.
Nah, some of it does. But like some of the nighttime stuff, it like seems like, they were out there trying to do stuff, trying to get something on camera.
Gotcha.
But there is a bunch of like B-roll type, we raced out to the, and they're all the buggies. But the town hall stuff, like Randy was saying, like they're really good. They have the big map, putting all the markings.
Yeah, I know they did that. They did that down at Black Mountain in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And Ford, when Ford was living over there in Asheville, was telling me about that they were doing a town hall down there for sightings around the Black Mountain.
They probably got a ton of people.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they did.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Bigfoot tourism, like the dolls and artwork and stuff like that in Asheville.
Yeah, I've noticed how much like there's always some Bigfoot stuff everywhere in certain areas, and I'm like,
It seems like that's got more popular though in the last 10 years. Like you're seeing museums pop up.
Yeah, there's one up here. It's like an hour away from me. It's like a cryptid museum.
No,
really?
Yeah.
I should go to it, man.
I've been meaning to. I just haven't had a chance to do it, but I have been meaning to do it. I just have to like plan. But I've gotten, my friends have messaged me like, dude, did you know about? I'm like, yes, I know about this. Because
what's the closest one to us? Is it Georgia that has one?
The one in the one that's in northern Georgia, the Bigfoot Museum there.
I think I've passed by it on the interstate, but I've never stopped either on that one. So I don't want to call you out too much when I've not been to this one.
Yeah, you should have stopped in there.
Yeah,
I would have if I had been passing by, but I get it.
The guy that runs the Bigfoot Museum is like, he's constantly posting on Facebook about how wrong all the researchers are. And
what's his, enlighten us.
They're interdimensional.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and all this stuff, because how else could they remain, hidden like they are and all this? And but he goes off of like all of the firsthand reports that people tell him when they come to the museum, and supposedly he's gotten just all kinds of wackadoo.
Well, I'm sure that's a good way to get it, I guess.
Yeah.
Pick up a lot of wild stories there.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Oh, you probably got some good stories.
Oh, I'm sure. Like some people make that place make a pilgrimage to that place.
Is it a big place? Is it big? It must be.
It's pretty big, yeah. It's pretty large.
Awesome. I mean, I go.
It's about. I think it's like 4.5 hours from here, something like that.
I go to that. That sounds like a good time. It has to be. It has to be awesome. Like,
what? I mean, what does he have in there? You've been in there, Randy?
I've never been in there. No.
Okay.
He probably has a bunch of like big, mannequin like Squatch stuff. He probably has a bunch of like.
He's got a big Sasquatch statue in there.
Yeah. He probably
it's
has
all hairy.
Probably has a bunch of like historical, like here's prints from here and there.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope so. It's just.
Yeah, I would hope so too. I would hope to like go see some like cool like here's an original like fucking newspaper from when they first posted the Patty footage, photo.
Right.
We're
like, oh, that's cool to see.
You get in there and it's just some dude and he's just telling you his theories on Bigfoot.
It's just a truck stop.
Worth it. Worth it, dude. I'd listen to it. At this point, I get it. You gotta listen to what everyone's saying. Because I don't get the answer either, so
put all of his retirement into building the place just so he can tell you his theories.
Hey, you do what you gotta do, man. How much is it a ticket into this museum? That's what I want to know.
I'm not sure. Honestly, it can't be too much.
It's probably.
I'm gonna look this place up while y'all are talking. So
yeah, pull that up. I want to know what they got there. What attractions?
It's right down the road from where dude saw the mollusk.
Really?
It's like within, I think, 20, 30 miles of that place.
There's like I guess like a pamphlet that says Bigfoot Museums. Find out if your kids will love it. It's kind of. If I find something semi-interesting, throw it up.
Where is it at again? It's in is it Madisonville?
Let me look it up. Right now it just says the name of it is North Georgia Bigfoot, but it doesn't give me like a. Let me look up the map. Blue Ridge, Georgia. It's
Blue Ridge, Georgia. That's where it is. Yeah.
Any side?
Which is right down the road from Morgan. So.
Okay, maybe I haven't passed this. I thought it was on.
I don't think you have. It's not on the interstate coming out of Atlanta.
Yeah, so I haven't. I know they have signs there.
You stumbled upon a secret one.
I mean, I'm not hugely impressed.
You're hard to impress. I'm going to tell you that.
Well, here, I'll throw some.
Remember that face print. But either way, we're talking about ghosts today. We're going to talk about ghosts today.
Yeah, ghosts.
You want me to throw it up or not?
Throw it up. Throw it up there. Let's see. Okay.
I mean, it looks like the Indian trading post at like at Fall Creek Falls or whatever. Like, it doesn't look.
What's that goofy looking one? Bigfoot. Oh, you can listen to like the Sierra.
Hey, there's Ron Moore here.
Yeah, it's Ron. He's got a bit. Look at that.
Wonder if it's signed.
Yeah. It must be. I hope it is. That's a cool. That's
I mean, like if I
terrifying.
was in the area, I would stop. But again, I don't think I would take a pilgrimage to this place. It looks just like super, super small. I don't know.
Okay.
It looks like a big building to have that much to have such
I mean,
niche stuff.
there's the building right there.
All right.
Yeti hand from Nepal. That's cool. That impresses me.
That's badass.
All right.
That's
Sorry,
pretty
ghost.
cool. No, it looks like it's got a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to check it out at some point.
Oh yeah, it'd be a fun trip. Be a fun trip. But we're talking ghosts, boys. All right. We're gonna get into some ghosts.
Ghost boys.
Yeah, ghost boys. I mean the ghost bros themselves. I mean was it ghost hunters there? They were down in was it Bobby Mackey's? Is that it's down south? I don't know if that's Georgia. There's
Wraith
like
Chasers.
Wraith Chasers. Is that a
Yeah,
local?
they're from Tennessee. But
Okay.
they go all over the U.S., all over. They go over to England, all kinds of places.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I've always watched those those TV shows. Of course, I like. I remember watching the first Ghost Hunters, with like the Zach Baggins. Did you ever see like the original documentary that like got them the TV show?
No,
It's wild, like the stuff they got. Like it's freaky. Um, and like the last like part of that documentary, the original one, like they're in like a basement and something like that, and like he turns into a room and like everything in the room just like spins around and like shoots up at him and stuff like that. It's like a brick, a piece of wood. It was like some they got some like pretty crazy stuff like in that original like documentary. I'm like, oh, that's why they got a TV show. Like,
Yes.
so, have you ever had like a ghost encounter,
Yes,
Randy?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived in a haunted apartment for about 7 years.
All right. How long?
And
How long? Okay, so 7 years. Was that the
7
apartment
years.
I'd been in?
No,
Oh, this was before. Okay.
yeah, this is about
Did you know when you moved in?
over 20 years ago. What was that?
Did you know when you moved in that it was haunted?
No, no idea.
Okay, so
Um,
I don't think
um,
I've ever heard this about this.
yeah.
Okay, so like you moved into this place. Were you by yourself?
No, I was with my family. My
Okay.
first wife and our kids, our two kids, Gage and Ella.
Okay.
Um, Gage told me a couple of years ago that he still remembers hearing voices from when he was a little kid in that place.
That's ooh.
Um, but what we moved in, we'd been living there about 6 months before anything started happening, and when it started happening, it was knocks on the wall, like in the hallway, and it was in a place in the hallway where there was nothing but a closet, so there was nothing to be knocking, in that area.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd hear these just gentle kind of knocks, and at first it was kind of creepy, but like we chalked it up to being that's just something in some part of the building that's making the sound. But the longer we lived there, the more and more stuff started happening. And one day, like for instance, we were in our bedroom, and we had three rooms together all together,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a big long hallway that connected all the bedrooms. And we were sitting in our bedroom, and then we had the two kids' rooms at the end of the hall. And we heard one of the kids was sick. We heard footsteps go from the kitchen and there's nobody else in the house. Go from the kitchen all the way down the hallway, and we literally heard these steps just normal as can be.
Like shoes or like bare feet?
Like somebody with shoes on was walking down the hallway. But it got to the end of the hallway, took a left into Ella's room, who was sick at the time, and stopped. We didn't hear anything else. And it would do things like that. Like the whole time we lived there, if one of the kids was sick, you would hear footsteps going down the hallway into the sick kid's room. And so so much stuff started happening while we were there. My ex-wife heard stuff. And we had people that would come over to spend the night to play D&D and riffs with us. They would hear stuff like while they were there.
And they'd be
And so
sleeping out in, like, the
anyone
living
that
room,
ever
right?
anyone that spent any amount of time in that apartment eventually heard or saw or experienced something. But we started looking into it, like, why is this place, why in the world is this apartment haunted? And we found out through the manager of the hotel, the apartment complex, that there was a death in our apartment 17 years prior to us moving in by a woman named Helen. And what's crazy was we didn't give her we didn't receive her last name at that point. It was just Helen.
Mm-hmm.
And she had died of complications from a hysterectomy. This would have been back in the 70s when she died.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe early 80s. When we fast forwarding, after we moved out of that apartment, 2 weeks after we moved out of that apartment, we got a piece of mail forwarded from the apartment that was to Helen Tackett. And it turned out that was her last name from 17 years prior. We had never gotten any mail from her living there the entire time. 2 weeks after we move out, we get a piece of mail, and it was a piece of junk mail, but it was specifically to her. And my wife at the time, this is my second wife because I got divorced while I was living there, got remarried while I was living there. So both of the
Helen was
ex-wife
there for
and
the divorce and the new lady.
it was there for all of it.
Helen just
But
watched you.
My wife told me that she really did feel like that was Helen saying goodbye when we got that piece of mail from her 2 weeks after we moved out. But she was in her late 50s when she died. And of course, I'm just assuming that this is who was haunting the apartment.
Yeah.
But there was an instance where we were playing ball with my kid and with Gage in the living room, and there was multiple people there when this happened in the room. And we were kind of doing this keep away, like bouncing the ball in between us and keeping it away from. He was running after it, chasing it. He was little, like 2-3 years old at the time, and the ball bounces out into the middle of the living room and just bounces right off nothing, like right in front of everybody. Like everybody kind of just like looks around at each other, like, "Did you see that?" And that was it. Like it just bounced off of nothing. But we would be. It never felt scary to live there. The entire time we lived there, even before we knew that it was Helen per se. It never felt scary. It just felt like we had a roommate that you couldn't see. Like and sometimes the roommate would show up, like you wouldn't hear the roommate for 4 months, and then suddenly she shows up and makes a bunch of noise, and then you don't hear from her for another 3 or 4 months.
What was like the type of activity though? Like how intense did it get when it did show up?
Like there was one night when I had 2 of my cousins spending the night. They were gaming with us, and they were going to spend the night, and they were going to be crashing on the floor in the living room. And she started knocking on the walls, and we literally went over to the wall. It was the wall bordering our bedroom. So we literally went down the hallway, started knocking on the wall. My wife starts knocking on the wall on the inside. And there was a third party knocking on the wall back and forth to us from the wall. So, I mean, she was like very, very proactive.
Wow.
And there was one night that I think I saw her. And I say I think I saw her. I saw a mist, like this misty kind of form. And I was in the kitchen doing dishes, and I heard what sounded like someone. The only way I can explain this, it was like someone dropped something heavy behind me, and it was like kind of startled me.
Yeah.
And I turned to look to see, and as I turned to look to see, right in the kitchen door, come this what looked like a misty fog for a second. It was only there for a second, and then it was gone. But it was enough it rattled me when I saw it. And there was an instance where our mother, my stepmother, I'm sorry, my mother-in-law, she lived with us for a while. And there was one night where she had invited us and my friend, we know Cozy, invited Cozy to go to a concert with her and her boyfriend that day. And we stayed up all night gaming. And so Cozy's crashing out on the couch. I go to my bed. Shirley, my mother-in-law, is leaving at about 4:00 in the morning. She gets out there with her boyfriend, takes off. Cozy comes in from Walmart where he hasn't crashed yet. Comes in from Walmart, crashes on the couch. And he tells me the next morning, he's like, did you get up last night and come in here and stare at me? And I'm like, why would I do that? And he's like, well, he's like, somebody did. And he said, at first I thought it was Shirley, but I got up and Shirley wasn't in the house. And he said that somebody was standing at the end of the hallway, just staring at him in the dark.
Oh.
And he said that whoever it was stood there staring at him for a while, turned, started to go down the hallway. And he said he saw them go into the bathroom. So he said he sat there for a while, waiting to go to the bathroom, thinking, okay, I'm going to wait till Shirley gets out of the bathroom and go to the bathroom. And finally, he goes to get up to go knock on the door. Door's wide open. No one's in the bathroom. So, yeah.
Oh. Oh, that's the heebie-jeebies, man. That's
yeah.
Oh.
It was creepy, but it wasn't scary.
That's just that would just freak me out. Just not being able to see the thing and just fucking knocking on the wall.
Yeah.
I've
told people before, like, before I had my sighting of a Sasquatch, like, I couldn't tell you that they were real before I had a sighting of one. I can tell you that freaking ghosts are real because I lived in that apartment for 7 years. And, my kids remember it. My ex-wife remembers it. My other ex-wife remembers it. The one that I got married to halfway through there. Well, what was funny about that with my ex-wife, when I got remarried, she got pregnant, and we had told her about Helen. We're like, the apartment's haunted, and she was like, sure it is. And we're like, no, seriously, it's haunted. And eventually, we don't know when, but eventually Helen will let you know that she's here. And so we're together for months and months and months. Nothing happens. She thinks that I'm making this shit up to scare her. And so finally, my friend Gar, who owns a local game store here, Gar calls me, and he's like, hey, man, I'm moving back from California. If I get you a plane ticket, would you ride back in the U-Haul with me across country? And I'm like, sure. So I get a plane ticket out to California. She's 8 months pregnant at this point. My wife is. And she calls me the very day I get out there. And she goes, well, I know you're not lying. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she goes, Helen showed herself, or she didn't show herself, but she let herself be known.
Oh,
and so she started like basically making the lights flicker in the back rooms. But she said it was both the back rooms at the end of the hallway, where both kids' rooms were flickering at the same time.
Oh, you froze up.
I don't know if we lost him. Those.
It's quite the mugshot.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like Fred Durst right now.
He's probably still going on. Like, not even knowing.
I know. I'm like, I hope he can hear us. Like,
Whoops.
boom, boom. You good now?
Yeah,
All right.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Where was that? What was I at? Where was I at?
You was talking about like what she called you and what she was witnesses and like stuff was moving, and that's about the time you froze up.
Yeah, she was
Oh,
she
okay.
was 8 months pregnant. She called you and said
She's 8 months
the
pregnant.
lights were flickering in the
Yeah,
back room.
the lights at the end of the yeah, and at the same time, and the kids weren't there. They were at their mom's in Manchester, which is like 20 miles away. So she's 8 months pregnant, and that's when Helen decides to, hey, get howdy.
Helen was helping you out, proving you no one was there.
Yeah,
Like, hey,
yeah,
look,
totally.
he's not lying.
Yeah.
It's just flickering lights. I guess that's like just like pretty non-threatening, just flicking. I don't know. How would you react? I don't know. How did she ever do that to you? Let's flick.
Flickered lights?
Yeah.
Not really, no. It was usually sounds. Usually with me, it was usually knocks and the sound of feet going down, steps going down the
Mm.
hallway and stuff like that. There was another time when uh it appeared that she pushed one of my kids in a you know those baby swings that you like put in the door facing.
Yeah.
They're like you clamp onto the door facing and it hangs and they like
Little
bounce and stuff.
little jumper.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little jumper. One of my kids was in. I think it was Ella was in that once, and she literally just boosh like went woof way up, and we were like she didn't kick her way up that way.
Yeah, it's just like someone pushed her up.
So we were like, well, there was stuff like that would happen though, and we literally would just look at each other and be like, Helen, like it
Now,
was just part of the living there.
Did you just tell people like when they came over, like, hey, just by the way, like something weird might happen?
We did. I did. Yep. Yeah. Pretty much. Just keep your pay attention, and if you hear anything or see anything, just let me know.
Oh my god. Did you ever try to document anything?
No, I didn't think anything like that back in those days. That was back in the 90s.
You were just like, hey, it's just cool. My place is haunted.
I mean,
It's like the cool party.
I didn't think it was cool. I didn't honestly think it was that cool until after we moved out and it was gone.
Mm. Yeah, what was it like then moving
Because there's something about like
a non-haunted apartment? And then
it was cold.
really? Scared to death.
Online or something like that, on a computer, and like it felt like I've got a roommate here that's invisible, and even if
Yeah.
everybody else is asleep.
Yeah, you still felt like
it didn't feel that way. Yeah, yeah. Even when there was nobody else in the house, it was like, well, Helen's here. It just felt that way.
You're gonna have to go back and watch this episode of like the moments that it's freezing you while you're like telling these stories.
Yeah. Freeze frames you pretty funny. It took a long time, but the house I grew up in, my grandmother's house, she told me it was haunted like way later. And I only ever had like one real like experience in that house when I was a kid. But like there was a weird feeling about the house that like no one liked being on the second floor of the house. It always felt like you were being watched. Like someone was watching you. Like you never felt by yourself or anything. Like it always felt like someone was like peering at you. And now for a long time as a kid, I thought it was just like I was afraid to be upstairs. Like I didn't like going up there. And then my cousins and stuff, they didn't like it either. You always felt like there was something watching from like upstairs. It was really weird. But like nothing ever like happened, except for like one thing that happened. um I in my room, I was like went to bed. I forget how. I think I may have been like 6 or 7 or something like that at this time. Um, the way the like upstairs was set up, it was like my room was kind of like in an opening. It was like not like it was a room, but it was like there was a big archway. And it was like off the hallway. I don't know. It's a weird way to like describe this weird room, but either way, I was like laying down, facing like the wall one way, and there was like a mirror on the bureau, and behind me was the closet in the room, and I remember just like I was still kind of awake, just like laying there. I had like one of the lights on in my room, um, and I remember hearing the door kind of open, the closet door, like, and this is like an old. This was in Lowell, Massachusetts. So it's like an older home. Um, but I remember it like popped open, and I remember being like startled by it and being like, "What the fuck?" Um, because, but also like the doors, it was old; they would kind of pop open every now and then. But I had this like weird feeling, like something was like behind me. Someone on the like was standing behind me, but like I couldn't see anybody in the mirror. And then like I got really like scared and stuff because I was like 6 or 7 at the time, and I remember like kind of covering up, and then what I felt was like somebody just put their hand like right on me, like just gently like rested their weight of their hand on my shoulder, and I remember like kind of doing like startle, being startled by it, someone touching me, and I felt it like pull away. Um, and then I heard like the closet click shut again. And then that's when I like kind of shot up and like screamed for my mother and stuff like that. And she like came in and she was like, "What are you screaming about?" And I was just like, something touched me. And she was trying to tell me it was like my cat, but I was like, my cat wouldn't have. My cat would have been like meowing at me and stuff. But like that was like the encounter I had up there. Um, but that was like the only thing, other than always feeling like you're being watched. And then
Was
Yeah.
it warm, cold, or like? Do you remember?
it was warm. It wasn't like a cold hand. It was just like more of just feeling the weight of like a hand suddenly
I
on
gotcha.
me. Um, but it didn't like because
Did
I
you ever
had like
find out if anybody died up there or anything?
yeah. So as I got older and stuff, eventually at like some of the fucking like family parties and stuff, I would bring up like, do you remember Nana's like house and how it was creepy on the second floor? And like all the cousins and stuff. Now they're all like, yeah, I didn't really like being up there and stuff. I got some of like, because my grandmother would have like my uncle's friends would like live there, rent out a room or something like that every now and then, because she was a pretty big house. Um, and they had mentioned like the weird feeling on the second floor, but no one ever really had an encounter or spoke about an encounter except my grandmother. So eventually I got her to talk after she had a few drinks now that she's older and retired. And she was like, the place used to be an old bed and breakfast in Lowell, like almost like a boarding house though. Um,
Yeah. So
uh,
there's tons of traffic through there.
yeah. So what she said was that who she thinks it was a woman that was a like waitress or like like she took care of the rooms and stuff like that. Like she was kind of like the cleaning lady.
Like a maid or
Yeah,
whatever?
like a maid. Yeah, like a maid for the place, and that she died um, in here because my grandmother said that she would fix her mistakes. Meaning, like my grandma would leave the windows open, we'd go out, and it would start raining. We'd come home, the windows were all shut.
Right.
Stuff like that. Um,
Nice.
but she said she was always on the second floor, but she's always like my grandmother said she was a busybody. but I like never really experienced anything other than like when you're upstairs, like it always felt like someone was watching you. And that was like what everyone
That's
else
wild.
experienced. But my grandmother said, there was
Yeah.
times she saw the curtains, close or something like that, but nothing ever anything crazy. But it took a long time because I used to be like that. The house is haunted. My mom and my grandma were like, "No, it's not. The house is not haunted." And then when I got older, like, "Oh yeah, it was haunted."
It's weird too when you have other members of family and be like, "Oh yeah, I felt that." Like
Yeah,
it was off.
and I knew it was different because when we moved out, and my mom, we moved in with my dad, my stepdad at the time, into his house. It was like a just completely different feeling. Like I never felt like like weird in any other house but that one.
Yeah.
So it's like I
Yeah.
get what you mean. Like it just, I was like, oh, I didn't mind. I could hang out on the second floor. I could, anywhere in the house. I didn't feel weird. Uh, my grandma's house though always felt like there was someone watching you in there. How about you, Houston?
Nice.
Anything?
I have zero personal stories. The only thing that comes to mind, I actually told you this the other day, but um, my dad, when y'all were talking about that, you guys, Cozy had somebody walk into the bathroom, that you had people like, you heard the door open and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was really young, I was probably 7 or 8. My dad told me one morning that he was in his room and he woke up, and at the foot of the bed he swore it was me. He just saw like this outline figure, and he thought it was me, and he's like, "What do you want?" And I didn't say anything. He's like,
Get back to bed.
"Yeah, like, what do you want?" And he said, like, as he's looking at this thing, like it just kind of like goes into the shadows, like it just kind of like deforms right there while he's before his eyes. And while that's happening, his like where he slept was right beside a window, and the blinds on it just slowly started like like right after he saw that thing. And I just remember him talking about like that just sent like shivers up him. But that's really, I don't have any personal encounters with any of this stuff myself.
I went out on some ghost hunts before. Like like before getting into like the wild man and Sasquatch and all that. Like I went looking for ghosts,
Oh, I would
as a
love to.
teenager and stuff because we had again I'm up here on the North Shore of Massachusetts. Before it became a luxury condo place, but the Danvers Asylum, which is like
Yeah.
ranked one of the most haunted places on the planet. They knocked it down and put luxury condos there, and the construction of that was rife with mishaps.
Really?
Yeah, and when they finished it, they had the original doors, front doors, like big oak doors to like the front reception for like the lobby. Um, Something happened and they caught fire and they burnt out of the frame.
Man,
Jeez.
Yeah.
that's not easy to do.
But what is reported since that time, there's been no reports of any hauntings or anything since then. But that place was on like, I remember growing up and that was like one of the ranked places on like the the TV show on during Halloween, like the 25 scariest places on Earth.
Yeah.
They're like number 7, Danvers.
Nice.
Yeah, that stuff. I mean, it interests me, but
It's
I don't know.
also where the movie Session 9 was filmed.
No, I don't know that
I've
one.
seen that, I think.
Yeah, that was in that building.
Yeah.
Before they knocked it down.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that movie's trippy.
Yeah.
It's an old one.
We had several back when we were doing the LARP. We had several players come to me and tell me that they saw a ghost. What was wild was it was different players, and they came to me telling me that it was in the same area. This is like over years.
What'd they say they saw?
But a woman and a glowing bluish woman in old timey clothes. And I told the Rangers about where they said they saw her, And one of the rangers told me that down the hill there used to be an old homestead down there next to the river, and that's who they think that it belongs to, because they said and then another thing is, they asked me one night that one of the players saw it, happened to be the night that they were doing the Mountain Man Festival up there at the park.
Oh.
And once an hour on the hour at the Mountain Man Festival, they shoot a cannon, right? And one of the rangers said that they think the cannon wakes her up. That's the way they put it. Is during the Mountain Man Festival, they think that all the noise and stuff agitates her.
She comes out for the festival.
That's B section. The campsite.
At our primary site? Is that what you're saying?
Dark water site.
Oh, the dark water site. Okay.
Not the primary site, but the dark water site.
Okay.
Other side of the park.
Okay. Yeah, I was always the one that, like, it's like, oh, this place is haunted, let's go check it out. Let's go check it out. I've grown weary of it though. Now that I look at Sasquatch, I'm like, I don't have time for ghosts. I try not to fucking. I also don't like when I hear the stories when it's like something came home with me. It was like,
Yeah.
Now,
hitchhiker effect.
Yeah. Now I remember when I was down for the convention in August that the guys from Rigor Mortis had reported some weird activity up in the haunted house.
They have, yeah. Which is their own doing, I think.
Yeah. So they got a hold of a casket.
Oh.
Are we allowed to talk about this?
I mean, they told me that one of their actors had gotten attacked by something and scratched.
Yeah.
And
so bad that
it scared them so badly that the actor left. And I was asking them, like, why in the world would there be anything haunting the haunt?
Yeah.
And they showed me that there's two used to be interred caskets that are in that room, used as props. And I asked, why do you guys own interred caskets? And they informed me that basically in the state of Tennessee, if they dig you up for whatever reason to rebury you in another cemetery or something like that, they have to use a different casket. They can't put you in the same casket that they buried you in originally. Oh. So they sell those caskets.
And they bought them.
Who's in the market for that?
And who the hell wants to buy old interred caskets? I guess people that own haunts.
Yeah.
People that own haunts, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what you do with them.
He definitely, I want to go through there one time, and I'm talking about I want him to take me through a tour by myself. I don't want to go through the haunt or anything. I want to see it all.
So behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So he took me through there one day. Yeah.
Has anyone done an investigation up at the haunt over? See if they got anything on camera or anything?
Not that I know of. I actually offered to hook him up with Kelly Schaefer, one of our guests from last year.
Yeah.
Who does the haunt investigations?
Yeah.
But I don't think they took her up on it.
Oh.
Just down the road for us. Not this apartment, not this complex that I'm in, but the complex down. There is a bowling alley that is locally known as being haunted, and there are several ghost hunting groups that have actually gone to the bowling alley in the last couple of years and done investigations.
Oh, really?
There, supposedly when they were digging up the floor, renovating it, building the place, they found a grave, and the grave was to somebody named Sam. And supposedly the people that own the place say that late at night you will hear bowling pins being thrown around in the back room. by somebody that's not back there.
That's creepy.
So
That's wild. Ah, we may have to check that out when I come down. That'd be kind of cool.
So who all do we know? Is it just Kelly that we know that does that? Or do we know more people besides her?
yeah, totally good. Yeah,
I mean, Hellbent,
Kelly's the main one that I know. Yeah, that does that. Yeah,
but Hellbent also does.
she,
They do paranormal
yeah.
stuff too, right?
But Kelly Schaefer messaged. She got hold of me a few months ago, where there was a guy that was having some haunting stuff going on in his house. And the reason she contacted me was because he was in one of his rooms and said that basically had a dog man sighting out the window of one of his like rooms in his house. So she wanted me to take kind of point on the dog man part of it while she did the ghost stuff. I called dude and interviewed him and stuff. Uh, it sounded more phantasmic and spiritual than it did like flesh and blood to me.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think how to word this. Do you think what you saw was actually like the basic definition of a ghost? Like someone died and that's left over, or what do you actually like belief would you have?
What it is?
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that I saw a ghost. I don't know what a ghost is. The idea, I always said this about Helen. The idea of dying and being trapped in an apartment for that amount of time is hellish. We joke about the bomb shelter down here being haunted, but that would be hellish too. Yeah, like I can't imagine. I don't know, man. I can't imagine being stuck in a place like the guy. If the uh, bowling alley is haunted, like what kind of
He's just
hell is
racking
that? To be
pins
stuck
all
in a
the
bowling
time.
alley.
That's why he's
Yeah,
throwing pins
like
around.
I could imagine.
Is he
Like
stuck
I'd
in
be
a
mad
loop?
too.
Like, are they stuck in a loop?
You're just a steward
Yeah.
closing windows every day. It's like, what's wrong
But
with
see,
these people?
that was just it. With Helen, it didn't seem like a loop. Like it seemed like she was there interacting.
Yeah, intelligent communication in a sense with the knocking and like
Yeah,
moving to like with intent.
yeah.
So I
So
don't know,
maybe
man.
some ghosts are kind of a loop and some ghosts aren't. I don't know.
That's just my hang up where it's like, man, I don't know. I believe like when you die, you go somewhere else. I don't know how. I don't know. It's hard for me to grasp that your soul is just stuck here. I guess I don't know.
I always
Like
feel
just
like
my belief.
Beetlejuice had it right, where there's like you gotta read the handbook and then like open on the door, like draw the door and knock 3 times, and then like maybe there is an out, like you go someplace else, and maybe some people just don't go. You know?
Well, maybe. I kind of wonder. Like the Cherokee believed that you had multiple aspects to your spirit, and that when you died, some of those aspects would ascend into the spirit world. Some of those aspects were stuck here on Earth, basically dealing with the ramifications of your death.
Mm-hmm.
And then another aspects of you may join nature, or so there's kind of like it's like you splinter. And I wonder that. I wonder if like maybe one part of us does go on, and the other part there's some part of us that just gets stuck here, like the
Bound to the
flotsam,
planet.
spiritual flotsam, you know.
It is like interesting. I've heard some theories with from ghost hunters. They've talked about like they've had they've done investigations where the intelligent communication was, it sounded like on whoever they were communicating with were also ghost hunters, and on their side they were the ghosts. So there was
Oh,
like,
that's wild.
yeah, so that like kind of blew my mind with some stuff. uh
We're just out running around like talking in the multiversal counterparts.
Yeah, like the veil was thin in that area, type deal. I mean, I as a kid, I always thought something like when I saw like they say in Gettysburg that you can see that ghost that keeps walking by the rock or something like that. He's like on a loop, and I always thought I was like, what if something bad happened, right? So bad that it just like scarred time, like right there with that image.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I've kind of thought about that, like repeat
Randy,
things.
did I tell you where Darby was out on one of those old Civil War battlefields, and he said he swore like it was almost like he was phasing in and out, seeing these battlements and stuff like that. Like,
No.
yeah, I'll have to get him to tell you that story because like it sounded like Assassin's Creed, like Animus stuff that he was, experiencing. It's like,
What battlefield was he on? Do you know?
I can't remember.
I talked to a ranger that worked down at a what is that place called in Murfreesboro? The battlefield down there.
I could have told you, but I just lost it.
Yeah, because I just screwed it up by saying that. Stones River battlefield.
Yeah.
But that ranger says that he was walking the road at night and came around a corner and said there was two Confederate soldiers standing up next to the wood line staring at him. And then and so he thought maybe they're reenactors, but it's the middle of the night, and he said right about the time that he thought that they were gone. So it makes I've wondered that too, like if there's really a lot of death at some place, in a short period of time, if that leaves some sort of
stain.
Wound.
Yeah.
Is it not weird that we reenact the Civil War? Like that's just a weird thing that we do.
It's a weird
especially is in the South. It's especially weird in the South where Southerners love to reenact being on the losing side, which I don't understand.
It's like me and Randy talked before. Like we are very proud. We're like Tennessean and all that stuff, but
yeah,
I don't get.
It's weird, right?
Yeah,
it is. I think it's a little weird too.
And they'll go out and they'll reenact the battles, and like some of them will get it down to like this person died, at 15 minutes into the battle, and then they'll fall over and die. It's like, wow, what? Why are you getting so dressed up? Like you look cool as hell, but why are you?
Oh, the uniforms they wear are pretty badass looking. Some of these reenactors go all out, man.
Well, they go all out, man. Some of those costumes or those uniforms cost thousands of dollars.
Yeah. One of the guys I work with did that.
The two LARPers are like, oh yeah, like we're impressed.
That's what I look at it as. I just look at it as it's Confederate LARPing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
It's just LARPing in its own way. I worked with a guy who did it. He told me about the trips they'd go down and be out there in the fucking woods. Sitting in trenches and stuff. Marching through. But he went to like the big ones where they do the whole weekend, like they actually like do the battle movements and all that, and they like eat and sleep and camp like they did. And I was like, that's LARPing, man.
They get dysentery.
Yeah, get dysentery.
Dysentery like they did.
I said, at least I'm fighting dragons, dude.
Yeah, right. As far as I know, Homeland Security doesn't think that reenactors are too dangerous. So.
See, got to be a LARPer then.
But yeah, back to your point, Josh. It's like that reminds me of the Upside Down in Stranger Things, where like these things are just like mirrored.
Yeah, that freaks me out. That freaks me out a little bit. There's just like one of those other whatever's on the other side. It's like, ugh. Now I hope that like I can just spirit off into the cosmos and fly through the fucking universe and just see big ass planets and stuff.
I do hope like after it happens that like you get some answers. Like whatever happened.
Yeah, what answer? What questions do you have?
Like how shit would that be?
What do you mean?
You die and you don't get any questions answered. It's just like, oh, you thought you were getting answers? No.
Go figure it out.
That's what I said. That's like I'm on. That's the side I'm on. Like I would want my questions answered.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, what if they're not?
Oh yeah, that would be
What if we're
horrible.
just taking? Yeah. You're stuck in the afterlife forever with what you know now.
Right,
Like,
and you're gonna be stuck in
man.
that house. You know.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know.
hellish. Ghosts are hellish.
Yeah, there's some now down in Tennessee. There's was it the Bell Witch? Kind of the famous one.
Oh yeah.
Down there.
Yep.
Question on that.
Yep.
That almost needs its whole episode.
Bell Witch. Yeah.
It does need its own episode.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, we did start this talking about ghosts, and it really just talked about us, talking about our
Well-
ghost stories.
You have one more, unless you don't want to tell it.
Oh,
Which one?
so this is when I was deployed, my last deployment. I had this like weird experience. We were in Iraq, so everyone knows. I was working in the motor pool, and we were getting ready to like leave. So I was doing an inventory check in the our big like containers and stuff, and we had this big horseshoe of sea land containers, big like shipping containers. Everything had its place. It was me, and I had a few of my guys with me, and I was just kind of running through a checklist, and I kept I was like, hey, take this to 7, take this to 12. And I had the clipboard. I had the set of like 5 quart of oil, little jugs. One of my guys came in. He goes, where to? I was like, take those to 12. He picks them up, leaves. Like 2 seconds later, he walks back in, goes, what am I taking next? And I go, I just gave you the oil. I was like, you didn't go all the way to 12. And he's like, what are you talking about? Then the other guy walks in, and he's like, what's going on? And I was like, are you guys fucking with me right now? I was like, you just came in and took the oil. And he's like, no, dude, I had sent him with something else. He was like, I was just over at like 2. I'm like, you walked in right next to me, picked it up, because I'm sitting here with the clipboard. The oil was sitting right here. He walked right up. I watched him pick it up and walk out with it. I'm now arguing with these 2 guys that he came in and took it. And he goes, no, I came from 2. And I was like, all right. So I like walk out of the container I'm in thinking he just has them sitting on the ground right there, and he's just fucking with me. I walk out, they're not there. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go walk over to 12. And we get over to 12, and they're sitting on the floor in 12. And I'm like, who put them there? And they're both like, dude, seriously, like it got to a point like I was getting angry with them. And like to the point that they were like, no, like we had to actually like cool off and be like, yo, this is not cool. Like no one's fucking with anybody. One of the guys that was with me was from Iraq. And he was like, that's some like jinn stuff that's going on. Like mischievous, like jinn stuff. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then he's talking about like that's kind of their spirits and ghost stuff out there. And I was like, all right, I don't have, at that time, I'm like, I don't have time for this. I want to get the hell out of this country at this point. But yeah, that was like another weird experience I've had. Dude, he walked right up next to me. I watched the oil go. Like I watched it happen. Yeah.
That's weird.
He said he was like disguising himself as someone.
Yeah, that's what you said they were convinced of, right? That
Yeah.
like he almost took on this other thing's shape just to kind of
like mess with
you that day.
Yeah. But it moved it to 12.
They're heavy about the jinn belief over there.
Yeah.
But you said they're like tricksters, pretty much.
Yeah. They from what they were saying, they were like they can be pretty nasty too, from what I hear.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like they can be scary, because of like the tails and stuff. But like they do say like as long they do like to mess around. That where we were
Weird.
has a lot of history. So
Yeah.
You just look like he was like glancing off into like a hard thought about this.
he picked up the oil. He
Oh my
probably
God.
was just like about trying to scare me, and then like I wasn't not paying attention. I was just doing my thing. Go take it to 12. He took it to 12. I mean, like, so maybe he was trying to scare me, and it just
No, I think
the other gin, meanwhile, are like, "What are you doing? Well, he told me to take it to 12."
no, I think if that was the goal to freak you out, I think that he
It
done
did.
exactly what he wanted to.
Yeah, watch us argue. I was like, what do you
Yeah.
mean, you fucking?
We're gonna break this man slowly.
Little did they know that I was like, fuck it, I don't care. And of course, for like a week after that, people were putting up like Ghostbuster signs and shit fucking on me.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Like, Manning saw a ghost.
Lord.
I was like, I don't know what happened. The oil got moved. And that's when I told you about my boss at the time told me about that story from Alaska, that hunting trip in Alaska. It was 2 days after I told him about what happened with the oil. We were sitting at his on the porch. We had like a deck area where all the mechanics lived, and it was like late one night. We were just chilling, smoking a cigarette, and he goes, "That's when he tells me the story about the Alaskan trip where he like saw something weird that charged him. He shot at it. He's like, I've never seen anything like it, but what he described was like kind of a big ass sloth." Hanging from a tree, and then it like dropped down and chased him off.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, dude's never ever told me anything the whole time I was like with him in the military and served with him. Like, never told me anything fucking wild or anything like that. Avid hunter, He was like, I only had this one weird thing happen to me, and he told me that story. And I was like, what?
That's a hell of a weird one.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what the fuck it was.
What's the Hoth monster?
The Wampa.
The Wampa, yeah.
What it was?
Maybe that's
Yeah.
what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was up in Alaska. He was up in Alaska where he said he saw it. He described it as like a weird grayish, brown and gray fur, but he said it had this long limb and it was like hanging off the side of the tree, and it looked at him and it hissed. He like spotlighted it, and then it like dropped down and started like scrambling at him. And he was on his snowmobile at the time, and he like popped like one shot in the direction and then just took off. It was just like, fuck this. Whoop. He's a good old boy. He was from like Oklahoma, so he's just like, yeah, screw this, fucking take off. He's like, and then he told me, he's like, I've never told anyone about that. He's like, I told some buddies when I got back, and they made fun of me that I saw like Bigfoot or some shit. And I was like, he's like you're getting made fun of that you saw a ghost. And I was like, that's being in the military.
And he said it looked like a sloth.
Yeah, like a really big sloth.
Weird.
Yeah.
I mean, if sloths move fast, that would probably be pretty terrifying.
Yeah. So it looked big. It was like one hand was on like a branch. And it like dropped down to all fours, he said. But he said the first thing it did was like that at him. And he's like, it wasn't a bear. Like,
Interesting.
yeah. Some weird stuff, man. But yeah, any more stuff, guys? I think we can wrap it up here.
I think that would be good, like for our own personal stories.
What? Just doing our
Like just stopping it right here with the own personal stories,
Yeah.
and then like later talk about stuff that
We'll do.
Kelly would probably be cool to get on here sometime, actually.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, she would. Yeah.
yeah. We should bring her on and talk about some of the investigations she does around the area. That'd be
We can
great.
do that.
Yeah,
She'd be down. She gets
Hell yeah.
excited about this stuff.
yeah, that'd be wonderful. Because I like to ask that. Like, I want to know about the weird, crazy ones. Like, that's the ones I want to know about. I was waiting for Randy to be like, I woke up and Helen was on top of me,
Nope.
Boo. Like,
Poltergeist.
yeah,
stuff.
some weird poltergeist.
Yeah,
stuff.
and there was never anything overly or anything threatening about
That's
it.
good then. You had a positive haunting. It seemed like.
Yeah.
Now is that apartment still there?
Yep. I drive by there all the time, and I genuinely kind of want to just pop in one day and be like, hey. But I mean, how do you do that? Just pop into some complete random person and be like,
Just be
hey, is your
like,
house haunted?
yeah, hey, I used to live here. It was haunted. Is it still haunted? Could you imagine if that's how you broke the news to them, though? They're like, wait, what? Like, and then stuff starts happening for real. Like, you woke her back up.
What if Helen opens the door?
Oh, you go to knock and
I
it's
kind of miss having her as a roommate. So,
Oh man.
there was a weird feeling of like
Companionship.
yeah, kinship.
not companionship, but just like a
Motherly.
You had to have been entertaining as fuck, though.
I don't know how to explain it. Like just
Watching you run
just-
D&D and stuff.
yeah, I was doing it for like a lot of people at that time too. There was like 13 people showing up in my living room. So
Jesus,
yeah,
that's insane. That's that's an insane level of game.
yeah, it was bad. There was people coming from like multiple counties over to my game.
That's amazing, though. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll end it there, guys. I think that was a good episode. And we'll see you guys hopefully next week. Yes. Sorry, we've missed a couple uploads. Getting stuff ready for the convention.
They don't know that, but
Yeah. Well, that's fine.
I do now.
Yeah, they know now. It's up, it's out there. Have a good night, guys.
see y'all.